So we're returning after our break, and we're in Siman Tzadi Vav in the tour. I just want to see a short piece in the tour. We're talking about
Pevav, right? Pevav, not
Hey,
study.
oh,
Zion.
sorry, Pei
Hey,
Vav.
Pei
Yeah,
Zion, sorry, Pei Zion.
Pei
Pei
Zion.
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 Sorry, thank you. Yeah, I'm a little bit rusty. Pei Zion. Um, we're actually talking about Basar V'chalav in its most basic sense. What's permitted, what's prohibited, and here is a place where minhagim are really known. People know what people do, right? It's very different from some halachot where it's not so clear, like details. But here are people know whether you can cook, chicken and milk together. Um, so all right, so it's a thing where we're gonna have to grapple with what is the practice. Also, is what I mean. Um, so look at the tour. Wait, am I? I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Look at a tour Gimel. There's a place that's marked Gimel. A second.
Is that Gimel Bet or
Yeah, I think Gimel Bet. Yeah, I think you're right. Um, yeah, Gimel with a little bet. And it says Dagim v'chagavim mutar le'achlan b'chalav. So you can have fish and grasshoppers or locusts, whatever they are. No, I think they're grasshoppers. You can eat them with chalav. Now, of course, we don't know what the grasshoppers. The temanim maybe know which are the grasshoppers, and I've heard that they. I've never actually heard a temani tell me that, but I've heard people say about the temanim that they know which grasshoppers you can eat.
Rav Natan Slipkin is selling them over Yontif. They just opened up he has a store where you can buy Chagavim.
Ah, yeah.
If
But how
you
does
can
he
find
know?
it. Yeah,
The only problem is you have to get that very small chalif to shecht each one. It's a manpower problem.
So, but the more interesting part is the dagim, mutter to le'echol b'chalav. And here, look at this is one of my favorite Beit Yosef Darkei Noam, not Darkei Noam, Darkei Moshe disputes here. So maybe Noam, maybe you want to read the Beit Yosef on Dagim v'Chagavim.
דגים וחגבים מותר לאוכלן בחלב, ראש פרק כל הבשר, חולין, אסור לבשל בחלב, חוץ מבשר דגים וחגבים, וכתב הר"ן, דכיוון דלבשלן שרי, משמע דלאוכלן בחלב נמי שרי. So it
Right,
says
wait,
in the
wait. So
Gemara.
wait. Just let me just. He was quoting there the Gemara. That's sort of or the Mishnah. He's quoting a little bit of the Mishnah. Kol abasar asur levashel b'chalav. Everything is forbidden to cook in meat. Chutz mebasar dagim v'chagavim. Except for these two examples. That's the Mishnah over there in Kuf Gimel, and which says clearly that you can cook fish and arbeh or hagavim in milk, and it seems to imply that everything else you can, which is interesting because we talked about that. What is everything else? What is everything? But fine, our topic is really about the fish. Okay, so on that, the katav haran. Go ahead.
So כתב הר"ן, דכיוון דלבשלן שרי משמע דלאוכלן בחלב נמי שרי, דאיסור בשר בחלב בלשון בישול אף כרחמנה. So the Ran says that since you're allowed to cook it, then you're also allowed to eat it, meaning you're allowed to eat fish and grasshoppers in dairy, because the Isser of basar v'chalav, the Torah expresses through the language of bishul.
And therefore what? But we're not talking about the Torah. We're talking about the Mishnah. The Mishnah said asur levashlan, except for these ones. So what? He's not the Torah doesn't. The Torah isn't. We're quoting the Mishnah. So how is this relevant to the Mishnah?
Well, I guess the Torah is just using the same wording as it said. The Mishnah is using the same wording as the Torah, and
Right,
we're assuming
exactly.
the
In
same
other
thing
words,
applies.
Right. This is going to be a big debate in the Nosei Kelim in general. Well, in the Rambam, there's a whole discussion we had about that. When the Rambam says about bishul, does he mean, well, does he mean actually eating them? And actually, we saw that actually maybe cooking them is permitted in the Rambam. And when the Rambam says asur to bashel, he means asur to echol, and dafka cooking is permitted. So there's a sort of a minhag to use the word levashlan to mean to eat them. Anyway, the Ran says that the same here. So just because it says in the Mishnah, mutter to cook them, don't think it means only cook them. You can actually eat them. Okay. V'ken kasvu.
Again, katav Rambam Rashba de lochlam bechalav nami sharei. So Rambam and the Rashba agree that you're allowed to eat them. Umikol makom en lachol bechalav mipnei asakana, כמו שנתבאר בספר אורח חיים.
Right.
So nonetheless, we actually shouldn't eat these things in dairy due to danger.
Due to danger, yeah.
Wait,
So that's
no. You have these things. You have dagim. I have dagim. Lechol dagim bechalav only.
right. You're right. Hagavim, you could.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have anything. I have mikol makom ein lechol bechalav. That's it. You have ein lechol.
No, it should be dagim. There's a word dagim.
What I have is what's it called? Ala Torah, which gets things wrong all the time.
Yeah, it does. Okay.
It's how it's so far.
Yeah.
That's good. Or maybe they did that on purpose. Yeah, something like that. So
He says makom makom.
So you just have dagim.
dagim.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so I was gonna tell people they can't have dagim. That's good to know.
Yeah. So hagavim he's permitting, but dagim he's not permitting. And that's what you'll find that a lot of Sephardim who follow the Beit Yosef do not eat chagavim. We'll actually see that there's also some Ashkenazim. There's actually an Ashkenazi posek that also says do not eat the fish and milk together. But here it says this is how a lot of Sephardim do not eat fish and milk together. Okay, so look at the Darkei Moshe, the very short Darkei Moshe, Dalit.
Villareiti?
Where did he get this from? Where did he get this sakana from? Like, what's his source?
Well, you're about to see. You first read the Darkei Moshe.
And I've never seen in my days anyone do this. V'gam be'orach chaim ino ela shelo le'ochlo bebasar mishum sakana. Even in Orach Chaim,
that Orach Chaim that he quoted, Kuf Ayin Gimel, is not talking about milk and fish. It's talking about meat and fish. Even the citation that he's telling us to go look at isn't proving his point. It's proving a different point.
He used AI for sure.
Ela mishum sakana, right? It's basar, but it's elechol babasa. You can't have fish and meat because of sakana, and that's a Gemara. That's clear in the Gemara that that's a sakana. Aval b'chalav. Keep reading.
Aval b'chalav share, but with dairy it's permitted.
Keep going.
The od yesh lamar. No.
Va'ayin lakaman.
Sorry, the Ayin Lakaman Siman Kuf Yud Vav and
Kuf Tet Zayin.
I really have Kuf Yud Vav.
I believe you.
That's the way the Rishonim used to write it like that.
The same number
is a later thing.
Right. It's the same number. Fine. Okay.
Cool. And it seems that the Beit Yosef confused dairy for meat.
Or meat for, dairy for meat, right. He wrote dairy, but he meant meat. And that's a kind of a pun. He's saying he mixed up the milk and meat. Okay, so according to the Darkei Moshe, it's a Taut Sofer. He meant to write meat, and he wrote milk, and therefore the whole world is following, not the whole world, half of the Jewish world is following Taut Sofrim, says the Darkei Moshe, which is interesting because we're going to see in the Shulchan Aruch, I think it's the Shach who brings a student of the Darkei Moshe who also forbids milk and fish. So let's go to the Shulchan Aruch now. Shulchan Aruch in the same place, Pei Zayin. Here, maybe Ori, you want to read just the Shulchan Aruch itself?
Okay. Starting from which Sif?
Sif Aleph. But Shammai, that sort of answers your question. You say, where does he get it from? My answer is he didn't really get it from anywhere. It's a mistake in the printing, because there is no source for this idea. Oh, okay, Ori.
Yeah, כתוב בתורה, לא תבשל גדי בחלב אמו, 3 פעמים. אחד לאיסור בישול ואחד לאיסור אכילה. ואחד לאיסור הנאה. והוציא אכילה בלשון בישול, לומר שאינו אסור מן התורה, אלא דרך בישול, אבל מדרבנן אסור בכל עניין.
What does he mean? First of all, what does he mean by? What does he mean? So we've seen this drasha. This is one of the many drashas of the 3 times that we saw. This 3 times because it's to say, whatever, to say different things, to say gedi or but here it's to say hana'ah and bishul and achila. And then when it says aval, and then it goes on and says, but derech bishul is the only thing that's asur. That's why it used the word bishul, because if it had said asur te'echol, you wouldn't have known bishul. So it wants to say, and it even wants to say that the only thing that's asur to eat, it's not asur to eat milk and meat together unless they were derech bishul, unless there was some kind of bishul going on. And then he says, aval midrabanan asur b'kol inyan. So what does he mean to include by that? Aval d'Rabbanan asur b'kol inyan. What would you say he means?
I would say eating, even if it's cold. And b'kol inyan must also include isur hana'ah, midrabanan. At least in a simple reading.
What do you mean, hana'ah of things that are cold?
I guess hana'ah that comes specifically from the mixture.
Well, I think, but he's going on the end here. What other possibility? What other possibility could you say for derech bishul? As derech bishul is asur.
You could be talking about sleep, perhaps.
But things that are not derech bishul are asur b'kol inyan. What's something that's not bishul that might be asur?
Sli, maybe, if you're thinking of bishul as being
sli, there is actually, sli, yeah, there might be an opinion that says sli is not bishul. Any other possibilities? Yeah, Max?
Malicha or something's kavush.
Right, malicha or kavush. Kavush is the classic example, like kavush, like pickled. If you soak your meat in milk, so it's asur d'Rabbanan. What's asur d'Rabbanan? To do that? To do that, presumably to do that. And then also to eat it, but also to do it. I think that's what he means. Aval b'drabanan asur b'kol inyan.
That was what the Bach said about the phrase.
The Bach said that in the
Torah. Yeah. Because it's the same language as the Torah.
Right. So let's see the Shach. Since we're here, we don't have the Bach, we have the Shach. Look at Shach Aleph. Here, who was reading, or read Shach Aleph.
שאינו אסור מן התורה אלא בדרך בישול, כלומר, אבל לא על ידי כיבוש ומליחה שאינו דרך בישול.
Right. So there he says explicitly. In other words, if it's that's what he's saying. If it's not normal bishul, then it's not asur min Torah, but it is asur d'Rabbanan. Okay, read the next shach.
Kol basar b'chalav v'chulei mutar.
Well, we didn't read. You didn't read that in the Ramah. So read the Ramah first.
Kol basar b'chalav she'eino asur min Torah mutar b'hana'ah.
So this is a nice klal, right? This is a klal that we can say anything that's not kol basar b'chalav she'eino asur min Torah. In other words, only the rabbis forbid it. Then the rabbis did not forbid hana'ah. What did they forbid? in whatever cases let's say kavush. What did they forbid? They didn't forbid hana'ah. What did they forbid?
Assumedly to do it and to eat it.
To do it and to eat it. And why? And hana'ah for some reason they
Definitive.
didn't include. It's kind of also weird, kind of. Why? But just hana'ah they excluded. Right? We have to think about that if that's right, if that makes sense. So look at the shach.
כל בשר וחלב וכולי מותר בהנאה, פטור
Isser v'heter.
ועשר
Ha'aroch.
בהתר, הארוך, כלל למד, דברי,
דין ה'.
דין ה', וכן דעת המחבר בסמך ג'
Besif Gimel. Besif
Besif
Gimel.
Gimel.
Let's look at Sif Gimel. Well, we'll read a little bit more and then we'll look at Sif
Go
Gimel.
ahead. Mhm.
Besif Gimel.
Lost my place.
Basar
בשר
of
עוף בחלב
b'chalav.
שאינו אסור באכילה, אלא מדרבנן, מותר בהנאה.
So let's
there
turn
it's
quickly to Sif
מפורש.
Gimel. Let's read Sif Gimel.
אינו נוהג אלא בבשר בהמה טהורה בחלב בהמה טהורה, אבל בשר טהורה בחלב טמאה.
Just, I would say chalav.
Oh, I'm using the I've lost my book. I'm using the Al HaTorah. What do you call it?
He writes chalev, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
But I would also read chalav if I were reading it normally. Yeah.
Yeah.
מותרים בבישול ובהנאה. ובשר חיה ועוף, אפילו בחלב טהורה, מותר בבישול ובהנאה, ואף באכילה אינו אסור.
Wait a second. So that's the key part.
אלא מדרבנן.
Ubasar chaya va'of, which are only derabanan, afilu b'chalav tahor, with regular milk, muter b'bishul b'hana'ah, v'af b'achila eno asur derabanan. So the rabbis forbid eating, but they didn't forbid bishul and they didn't forbid hana'ah. So wait a second. So come back over here. That means they only forbid one thing, eating. So why did it? But the Ramah says different. The Ramah says kol basar v'chalav she'eino aser min Torah muter b'hana'ah, presumably aser b'bishul. In other words, aser to do this kind of weird bishul, this kind of kivush. So why would they forbid the kibush of basar b'chalav, but not forbid the bishul of chicken and milk, or of chaya?
Two different circumstances. Here we're in a normal case of basar b'chalav where midoraisa you can't cook them together. So the Derbanan can go one step further to say, don't do something.
Even though this is not real cooking,
it's like cooking. It's very close to cooking.
It's like cooking, so therefore we'll forbid it. But with
oaf, it's the extension is already to extend to the category of oaf.
Right. So it would be a further step to go
2 steps, yeah.
And say for forbidding cooking. But they do want to forbid eating because
that's the step they're taking, the one step.
Right. That's the one step they're taking. All right, good.
I mean, you could see it otherwise, right? Because it could be one step from not cooking, behema to oaf. But
right, because you could say the oaf is just right. So you'd say don't cook it because you might come to cook regular meat in milk.
Yes, I think we're assuming that there's like a tertiary structure where eating is the most chamur and cooking is somehow less chamur, is what we're like sort of assuming. But I don't know that is pshat, right? I mean, if anything, the Torah says lo tzavashel.
But hotzi isra achila b'lashon bishul. In other words, the Torah is really interested in eating. And sort of like the Torah is saying, don't cook and don't have hana, just to keep you. It's like don't even touch it. It's like it's almost like a gezerim in a Torah, right? It's a gezerim in a Torah. The Torah doesn't want you to eat them, so it says don't even cook them.
I see. Mm-hmm.
And so you could say that you could learn that from the Torah itself. It's really interested mostly. It's a gezerim in a Torah, actually.
Oh, I didn't mean that, but you said it.
It's a.
I said it. I don't have. Rabbi Landis will now tell me that
Nah,
I'm wrong or right.
you know, not wrong. I'm going to cook you up some dinner, and you're going to eat it. Why do I cook you up a dinner? In other words, there's a language. There's a language of how there's a language which then halachic people like us divide up into three different ways. But in terms of its common usage, it could very well be. You could make the argument that I would make the argument that it's achila.
Right. I think that's really right. I think we're getting to a very interesting principle. That's probably right.
No, so in other words, right, two ways of looking at it. Where are you really getting at it? Halachically, I get worried about that, but I think it's good enough for the shach. It's good enough for me.
Exactly. That's the way the rabbis seem to understand it. The rabbis seem to be more interested in being gozer on echila than on anything else. So they understand that's really, like you said, like Ori, that seems to be what the Torah is really interested in, or at least how the rabbis understand the Torah.
I stumbled into it because I was saying it backwards. I was saying, if you take the Torah super literally.
No, don't say it the wrong way. Don't say it the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
But I'm saying
credit. I'm giving you credit.
No,
I'm
mentoring you as a teacher.
Well, the inverse, maybe I'm showing what.
Well, what did Ravori said? Don't remember the wrong way.
I'm trying to show what's ridiculous, right? If I was literalist,
don't show it the wrong way.
I'll be literalist. Then you could see you as a halachist, you might be even less happy if the Torah says don't cook. Then just don't cook. But
right, but it is
what would the point of that be?
Patently absurd in a sense, or bizarre. If the Torah would tell you don't cook things, the Torah, all of a sudden the Torah is interested in cooking. Obviously, it's gonna, unless you hold that it's like, unless you hold like the Rambam maybe says that it was part of idolatry, and maybe they used to cook this as part of a ceremony to worship idols, and maybe they never even ate it. Okay, but I think that's not the way the rabbis.
Also in the context of korbanot, in many of those places.
It's brought sometimes in that context, sometimes not. We just read it in the parsha about. Did we just read it? We just read it. Anyway, let's continue. Let's do the shach bet.
I think we're up to.
Wait. So we start from the beginning again. I need to have a little momentum.
Okay, so no, from the
beginning, shach bet.
Yeah, I'm just skipped the intro, but kol basar v'chalav mutar b'hana'ah tur b'isar b'heter haroch klal lamed din hey v'chein da'at ha'mechaber b'sif gimel the basar of b'chalav she'eno asur b'achila ela mider banan mutar b'hana'ah af mider banan.
So you see that this mutar b'hana'ah is a real thing, even according to the Mechaber, because that's the Rabbanan. Of course, the Mechaber also says mutar b'bishul, but that's not his point. His point is that the Ramah here says mutar b'hana'ah, and that's the Mechaber also says that. V'ken dat hara'ah. By the way, it's a big question who wrote the Sefer Chinuch. There's a lot of different opinions, and generally scholars say nobody knows, but apparently the Shach knows. The Shach says that the Ra'ah wrote the Sefer Chinuch. Here you see it. V'ken das Ra'ah, the Sefer Chinuch. He, at least whether mistakenly or not, he knows that.
V'chein dat Rambam per tet ma'achalot asurot.
Mehilchot ma'achalot asurot din dal.
Lehedya explicitly. V'chein bi'er dvarav
Perish Mishnah.
Perik Kaf Hey. V'chein Perish
Perik Kol Basar. I think it's Perik Kol
Basar. Right. V'chein Perish Harav Hamagi Da'ato. V'kach Hevin Maharshal.
Perik Kol Basar.
I have Pei Aleph Tet in the Al Torah. Which is weird.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's Perik Kol Basar. I think I go by mine. Perik Kol Basar Siman Kuf.
Siman Kuf. Ushar Achronim. Da'at HaRambam. Ushar Achronim. Da'at HaRambam. ולא כמה שכתב הבח, דדעת הרמב"ם דבשר עוף בחלב אסור בהנאה מדרבנן.
So the Bach understood the Rambam to mean that Of is Asur Bahana'ah, not like the Ramah here.
Mhm.
Okay. We saw that actually. Go on.
כמו שאסור באכילה מדרבנן. Just as it's asur to eat midirabanan, it's also asur b'hana'ah, according to the Bach. ומה שכתב ודוחק לומר, דהי לבשל לאכול הוא.
Right, and
came back.
Right. The Bach said that when the Rambam said that, remember the Maggid said that, if you remember from last week, from 2 weeks ago, the Maggid said that I think it was the Maggid said that the bishul, when he says bishul, it means le'echol. Bishul is actually mutter. And the Bach says v'dochach lomar dahai levashel, that when the Rambam says it's asur levashel, he means le'echol v'chule. Kfar hashavti alav b'sifri ayin sham. Fine, we didn't investigate that, but fine. He doesn't agree with the Bach.
וכן כתב מרדכי, פרק אין מעמידים, והגת אושרי, פרק פתרה, דעבודה זרה.
Meor Zarua.
דעל ידי כיבוש, או על ידי מליחה מותר בהנאה. Okay, so in the Mordechai, we see if you do kibush or salting, then it's mutar bahana.
Now, wait a second. It's a little bit weird now, because now we're saying, wait a second. In other words, because there's 2 ways that it can be Rabbanan. Either it's Rabbanan because it's kibush, and the meat and the milk are real meat and milk, or like we said before about the chicken, that it's real bishul, but the chicken is not real meat. So either way, it comes out to Rabbanan, and it should be mutar b'hana'ah. And here you see the Or Zarua says it by exactly our case of kivush, that it's mutar b'hana'ah. V'ken katav ha'mechaber.
Come on. Seif Samech.
Sof Siman Tzadi Aleph.
Sof Siman Tzadi Aleph. Okay. והוא מדברי האגור שהביא בבית יוסף שם, ומהרש"ל שם, חלק
על זה ואין דבריו מוכרחים. So he's basically saying the halacha is like the Ramah, and not like the Bach tried to learn in the Rambam. Now look at there's a little bet, which is the Chidushei Rabbi Akiva Eger, right there in the middle of the shach. If you notice, there's a little bet after he brought right before it says V'kein kasav Mordechai b'perach ein ma'amidim. So look at that. Look here. So let's have maybe Joel. You want to read this Chidushei Rabbi Akiva Eger bet?
In v'chach katav Mordechai perek ein ma'amidim ayin sham.
Yeah, everyone has that.
No, where is it? No, where?
Chidushei Rabbi Akiva Eger. By me, it's written Ayin Kuf, Reish Ayin Kuf. Rabbi Akiva.
What's called Hagahot? Rabbi Akiva Eger?
And also it's called
it could be Hagahot Rabbi Akiva Eger.
Okay.
It could be by me it's Chidushei, but either way, it should start Ken Katav HaMordechai. It should be a little bet in front of it.
We'll see a bet.
Mine
see a bet.
Oh,
That's
okay.
also okay, as long as you see Ken Katav HaMordechai.
Yeah, my version just has Diborei Amarchil and no numeration. But all right, Ayin Sham.
And how do you know? Oh, I see. But does it have a bet inside the shach?
It says Shach Sif Katan Bet, and you have,
and it doesn't tell you where. Okay,
but it's okay. I've never for years you've been giving me the enumeration, and I just look for it. So
okay, I have enumerations.
Yeah. V'chein katav or v'kach katav either way. Mordechai perek ein mamidim ayin sham shevi raya mihad yaminan mipnei ma asru gvinot oved kochavim מפני שמעמידים אותם באור קיבת נבלה. All right, so he has his proof. He says we have this question, right? Why can't you eat cheese from non-Jews? Because they what is it? What's called when you coagulate the cheese? Mamid. I don't remember what the English word is there. When it coagulates, whatever that word is.
Curdle.
Curdle. There we go. Yeah, is it curdle? Something like that.
Whatever, they store it. Well, it's more than curdle. It's all even
Process.
they create the cheese in the stomach.
Yeah, the way not the way it interacts with the enzymes, right? Essentially there. So whatever that is.
But or hakeva, they actually put the milk into the or hakeva.
Yeah. Okay, so you put it, you're actually in the stomach of the nevela. Ve'amai, right? Eno asur gamken behana, right? So why isn't it also forbidden hana? Mishum bebasar bechalav, mishum bebasar bechalav, because it's basar bechalav.
In other words, what we say is like this: the cheese of goyim is forbidden to eat. But wait a second, can I have a cheese shop? Can a Jew open up a cheese shop and never taste anything and just sell it? And he's a marketing in treif cheese. So you could because it's only issur of eating it. But if it's basar b'chalav, if kibush is forbidden and also b'hana'ah, not like the Ramah said. The Ramah says mutar b'hana'ah. But if it would be asur b'hana'ah, then they should have said that not only is the cheese forbidden to eat, it's forbidden to derive any benefit from. And they didn't say that. So therefore, you see that it must be mutar b'hana'ah.
Exactly. Ela korchacha kevan dehave rak derech kavisha, derabanan eno asur b'hana'ah. Right? Since it's only kavisha is only asur derabanan, and it's kavisha that's going on in the kevat nevela. There's no isur hana.
All right, now we'll read a little bit more. He's now going to go on to a different topic, which is about cheese, which is, I think it's interesting. So read on.
So v'kasheli, right? So now this is the Rabbi Akiva Eger saying, Ha be'emet kasher, l'may nakata tam demamidim be'or kevat nevela. Why is the reason that they gave for it being asur, these cheeses, because they let it, I still can't remember what the English word should be, whether or not it's curdled, the process in the stomach of this non-kosher animal. Right? Even if you put it in a kosher animal, should be basar b'chalav.
It should be asur because you're doing kibush in basar b'chalav. You have basar b'chalav with kibush.
So I think, right, the way that it's usually done is that you take the milk that's in the stomach of like a young cow, right, that has the enzymes in it, and you use that.
Okay, right.
Not worrying about basar b'chalav, if I'm not mistaken.
No, but why did they say the word nevela? They should have just said basar.
Any animal, yeah. So actually, right, even so, we will see, right, there's a whole debate about whether or not, it depends how you read the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch, whether or not there is an isur basar b'chalav with a nevela at all, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, fine. But he says, right, but he says if it would be a kashera, it should be asur because of basar b'chalav.
Right. Right. And so the Tosfot had the same kasha. V'tirtzu kevan dehave rak b'basar b'chalav derabanan lo chashinan l'sfeika. Right. Because this is only right basar b'chalav that's derabanan. But we're not concerned with the safek here. That
because we don't know that the goyim did it. We don't know exactly how they made it. Maybe they used vegetarian rennet. But they might have used this, and so it's a suffix. So we're going to forbid a suffix, but we're not going to forbid if it would be a suffix of basar b'chalav. Which kind of basar b'chalav? Not real bishul, only fake, only kibush. That wouldn't have been enough of a reason to be choshesh in a case of suffix. But if they actually use a nevela, then if that's a chashash of an isser. Not a chashash of a derabanan isser.
So it's not a chashash. Really, he's saying it's not the chashash isn't basar b'chalav. The chashash is the nevela, essentially.
Yeah, the chashash is that there's actual nevela in the cheese, and therefore it's a chashash d'oraita. So therefore they were machmir. I mean, actually, fine.
Also,
go ahead.
There's the essence and there's the process.
Right. The question is devar mami. Yeah.
Right.
So, וכן למה שתרצו הרי מיגש והרמב"ם, הtam demamidim be'orkev. Let's have the right line. Yeah, hatam demamidim
No,
be'orkev.
Rambam de be'emet.
Do you have? Oh, you're right. Sorry, that's why I went to the wrong line. Migash harambam de be'emet. Yeah, here we go. Yesh miastam. Yeah, miastam.
We would say like minastam, like we would assume.
Yeah, minastam. Yeah, minastam shishim bechalav. Right. It's less than 1/60th. Visero rak mishum ma'amid. Right. Its isur isn't because of let's say flavor. I'll say it's really because of ma'amid. Right. Of process.
Exactly, because it's not, if there's only 1 in 60, then it's really mutter. So why would we be gozer on this thing?
Exactly.
So he says it's rak mishum mamid.
Right. That doesn't, mamid doesn't make things basar b'chalav. Right. That's not. Umimela bazeh.
In other words, if you're mamid cheese, you make the cheese coagulate because of meat, but the meat itself is less than 1/60th,
and it's not a problem.
Then it's not a problem, because it's because of basar b'chalav, you don't have it because there's no tam. And because of mamid, you don't have a problem because the mamid is a kosher thing. And it doesn't matter that it's milk and meat. It doesn't matter that the kosher thing happens to be a meat thing, and this cheese is a pile of cheese that I'm eating, because it's not basar b'chalav, because the amount is less than 1/60th. So we don't have basar b'chalav because there's no tam. And mamid from a kosher thing is kosher. But if it's a nevela, it would be aser. And that's why they said nevela.
Keep going.
Yeah. Is that clear to everybody? That's a little bit of a subtle point. But go ahead, yeah.
I said that. Umimela bazeh azda gamken riatam delinyan hana'a mishum b'basar b'chalav leka dehamishum ma'amid lo naseh b'basar b'chalav. Right, and that's consistent, right, with the proof, because in terms of hana, in regards to hana'a, because there's no basar b'chalav here, right? This is mami, so the basar b'chalav never comes up as an issue. Okay.
So that's why they didn't forbid hana'ah.
Because it's
then
not.
You could say, wait a second, but it's kippush anyway. So why should they?
They're
saying for sure there's no basar b'chalav here, so for sure there's no hana'ah.
So
okay, v'kevan.
Kevan de Mordechai. Let me make sure I get to the right next line. Lo sfira le lahanach tirutzim. Yisher kushiyat tosavot. Right. Since the Mordechai doesn't have any of these answers, we return to the Tosfot's question. Delamaina kat nevela haibek shira gamken asur mishum basar b'chalav v'tzarich iyun. So then the question comes back: why did it particularly choose nevela? Why didn't it just say in any stomach? And we need.
But we have Tosfos' answer. It's just that because it's the suffix of basar b'chalav, which is not real basar b'chalav, it wouldn't be gozer.
Yeah, but the Mordechai doesn't hold that, so we're back to
right. V'gam kashali.
All right, v'gam kashali al tirutz Mordechai the gavinot lo nesru b'hana the kavush mutar b'hana. Right, that's difficult for me. Right, the Mordechai says
his answer. His answer is it's a proof here that that by kibush there's no asur hana, just like the Ramah said. He says I don't agree with that. I don't understand that proof. But Ken.
וכן לפי מה שכתב לתוספות לעניין הנאה הווה ספק דרבנן, right? מכל מקום עדיין קשה יהיה גבינות דעובד כוכבים אסורים לעשות מהם תבשיל דאם עובד כוכבים העמיד באור ונבלע טעם בשר בחלב בכבישה כשעת
when you're now cooking Oto habalua b'toch hachalav havata bishul. In other words, even if you say that it wasn't bishul when he did the kibush, but now, and this is actually very relevant to the whole din here, because the din was that if you did kibush, it's mutar b'hana'ah, and he didn't say that it's mutar b'bishul, and now we're understanding why it's not mutar b'bishul. Because if you did kibush of milk and meat, so it's not really cooked together, but now you came and cooked it, you took that thing that was soaking in milk which is not really milk and meat now, but now you cook it, so now there's milk in it and meat in it, and they're cooking together. Because it's true that the kibush didn't do cooking, but it did cause absorption. So now if you come and cook it afterwards, you're cooking absorbed meat and milk.
And now you violated an isur, and you can't get hana from it at this point. So
right. So that's what he says. Now you're doing bishul. Va'avar mishum bishul. Basar b'chalav. Now you violated bisur, cooking milk and meat. V'gam v'bashlo yeh asur b'hana'av. Tzarich iyun. Why does he say tzarich iyun?
Because he doesn't have an answer to the Mordechai, I think. That's for the Mordechai in that case. So,
in other words, but the Mordechai just said it's mutar b'hana'ah. I didn't say it's mutar b'bishul.
You're right. Maybe we should assume that.
I don't know. A little bit too. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, we got interesting principles here. First of all, we got the interesting principle of why cheese is forbidden, which is because of mamid of an isser. Then the isser is here. But when it's mamid of a heter of meat, of kosher meat, that's not a problem. There's no problem of mamid by cheese if it's kosher meat. Yeah. And then I'm just thinking about gelatin, but whatever. And then we also learned this other idea that even though that now we can kind of understand why the Ramah says asur b'hana'ah, mutar b'hana'ah, but he didn't say it's mutar b'bishul. But by the other case, in Sif Gimel, what did we say in Sif Gimel? That Ori read to us so nicely.
It's mutar b'bishul, right?
That it's mutar b'bishul because even if you bishul it, you're never going to get to an isser because it's a chicken after all. So that's why it's mutar only b'hana'ah here. So if you did kibush, now it's mutar b'hana'ah, but not b'bishul.
So I just want to go back over this, right? If that's okay, Rav Nachum, right? So if you have chicken and chicken and milk, which is there's no isur deoraita on, you can't eat them together, but cooking and hana are permitted. But kibush and malicha, because you might come to then cook them later together, those two, that new substance, it should be isur. It should be asur levashel derabanan. It should be asur levashel and asur. He would be derabanan, but deoraita asur levashel.
In other words, if you would want to come and cook them together, it's forbidden.
Yeah.
After you did the bish, after you did the kibush, you can't come and cook them.
So it would be a deoraita. So therefore, because of that, you might even extend that it could be a derabanan isur to do kibush of basar b'chalav.
Yeah, well, that's what he said. That's what and exactly what the Ramah said. The Mechaber said. He says, "Eno asur min Torah el derech bishul aval midrabanan asur b'kol inyan." That's what he means. You can't do kibush. Now we understand why you can't do kibush, because if you did kibush, now you've got this thing that midiraita, it's mutter really to eat, but if you cook it, you can't cook it because it's got milk and meat mixed together in it. And the Rabbi Akiva Eger said this brilliant point, which was that why did we get an answer for this? He said this brilliant point. How can you cook cheese at all? Because if you cook cheese, you have the milk and you have the basar. The answer is simple, because it's batal b'shishim. Okay. He didn't say that though, but fine. I think that's the answer.
I think it's because it has bitul. It's not basar. It never rises to the level of basar b'chalav.
Right. Okay.
That was sort of how I took his Sarich Iyun, was that like we cook with cheese, and as in I just took it as this is a kasha, but we're like there's no way of actually trying to say that it's usher to cook with cheese.
No, but I just now said why it should be mutter.
Right, no, for sure. Right, but he doesn't say that.
Right, he doesn't say that. All right, there's actually one more short Chidushei Rabbi Akiva Eger. The next just continues. Just read a little bit more.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Mutar Bahana. This is on the
This
Ramah.
is on the Shulchan Aruch again, on the Ramah. The Ramah said, Kol basar b'chalav she'eno asur min Torah, like kibush, mutter b'hana'ah. So read on that. What does it mean, mutter b'hana'ah?
All right. V'had lo katav mutar b'bishul. Right.
Which we've been talking about all this time.
Hainu dechayal, but he includes it. What's his acronym there?
B'basar b'chalav.
I have a bet aleph and then bebasar b'chalav.
Bevat achat.
Bevat achat? No, I don't know.
I have nothing like that. I just have bet chet.
I have it spelled out, bevat achat.
In other words, in one go, he's including it bebasar b'chalav. Al yedei kvisha u'melicha. Kazeh asur bebishul kevan de kvisha u'melicha. Nivla bo achalav, ukeshebishel hu mevashel atah habasar. This is what he said before. Habasar ima chalav shebetocho ve'over mishum bishul vegam yasor bahana'at denaseh bebasar b'chalav deoraita. All right. So in other words, you should.
He's explaining exactly what we just said. The reason why the Ramah forbid dafka hana'ah is and permitted dafka hana'ah is because obviously cooking would be forbidden because now you'll be over in basar b'chalav. Okay.
So, Viduk. All right, see that I'm right.
The grom can be a daim la'arev basar b'chalav lehenot mimenu al ayin b'minchat Yaakov. All right. In other words, can you do kibush and then you say, I want to sell it. I want to sell pickled cheese. I don't know. I want to sell not pickled cheese. I want to sell meat pickled in milk milk. Yeah. As for hana, I want to sell it as to goyim. He says that it seems from the Shulchan Aruch to me that it's usur because it says avav midrabanan asur b'kol inyan. And then when he says and then the Ramah just says if you did it b'diavad, now it's mutter b'hana. That's the way I understood it. But he's just looking at Minchat Yaakov. Fine. All right. How are we doing as far as time? Yeah, wait. I got to plug in.
Rabbi.
Yeah, I'm listening. I just have my computer.
I just want to say something about, if it's okay with you, about the fish and milk, which has a crisis every Sunday morning in America and Saturday night. The crisis Sunday morning is bagels and lox. Crisis Saturday night is anchovies on your pizza. Chassam Sofer says it's based on a sakana. There's no more sakana. I see people eating milk and fish all the time, and no one gets sick.
Well, but the
so
milk
basically, according to Chassam Sofer, the Easter doesn't exist anymore because somehow people don't get sick from this. And then, of course, there are those who want to say, well, maybe there's still a sakana, or at the very least, there's a minhag. But actually, you have, if you could have your bagel with everything on it and the lots and cheese, you have somebody to rely on.
Rav Landis, does he extend that to meat and fish also, or he
doesn't talk about meat and fish?
Doesn't. Okay.
I mean, Shuvai, so I just find it again. I didn't look at it recently. Yeah, but pretty clear it was on milk and fish.
Wait, since you said that,
extrapolate. I mean,
although meat and fish has a stronger foundation in halachically, I think, historically than meat and then fish and milk does, right? So it's maybe harder to break that one. So.
I mean, we already saw that in the Beis Yosef and in various things, the fish and dairy one didn't even catch everywhere, whereas the meat and fish one was really fun.
You know what? Because we're talking about this, let's look at the end of the Mechaber in Gimel.
Yeah.
Just look at the very end. It was skipping a little bit. He says, "Avad dagim v'chagavim, ein behem iser afilu b'drabanan." There's no iser to cook them in milk. Of course, notwithstanding that the Beit Yosef said that you can't eat them together, but there's no iser afilu b'drabanan. Even the Rabbanan, you can cook them. But why would you cook them? I guess you give them to somebody who doesn't care about a sakana or to a goy, whatever. So he didn't paskin, by the way, that Beit Yosef. He just said it in the Beit Yosef. He didn't say it here in the Shulchan Aruch. Here he just says, "Avad dagim v'chagavim ein behem iser." Okay, so let's look at Daled in the Shach here. Who should read? And maybe Shammai, you want to read?
I see hey. I don't see Daled. No, I see hey.
Oh, did I say the wrong thing? Yeah. Sorry. Hey. Take it back.
Okay.
Hey.
אבל דגים, כתב הטף?
So here, ha'ateret zahav.
Oh.
That's the lavush. He
Okay.
is 16th century Talmud of the Ramah. So this is interesting because he's a Talmud of the Ramah. So that's what he says.
כתב עטרת זהב, וזה לשונו, מכל מקום אין לאכול דגים בחלב מפני הסכנה, כמו שנתבהר באורח חיים סימן קע"ג על כן לשונו. So,
wait. So he just says exactly the same thing that the Beit Yosef said.
what we saw,
He
yeah.
quoted the same place.
But it's wrong, right? You said it's a Taut Sofer, because that's not what it says in Orach Chaim Siman Kufan.
Exactly.
Okay.
Your homework tonight is to go look over there and prove him right.
Wasn't Rav Nachum who said it's Taut Sofer? It was the Ramah himself who says it's Taut Sofer, right?
The Ramah says it, but his Talmud apparently didn't remember that Ramah. Didn't remember that in Beidarki Moshe. And he quotes it, and he says, yeah, it's Usser. He agrees with so he actually paskins. So if you're looking who paskins it, in other words, what I'm saying is like this: the Mechaber didn't actually paskin. He said it in Beit Yosef. He didn't say it in the Shulchan Aruch. But the Lavush is saying it, and he's saying it, right? He's saying it in a place where it would be normally put at halachas in the Lavush. Okay, ube'emet, go ahead.
ובאמת נמשך אחר הבית יוסף שכתב כן. So he's just following the Beit Yosef. Not the Shulchan Aruch, right? Not as he writes in the Shulchan Aruch, but as he wrote in the Beit Yosef שכתב כן. אבל הוא טעות. It's a mistake. כי לא נזכר שם, אלא דגים עם בשר אסור משום סכנה. It's meat that is forbidden to eat together with fish, not milk. And this idea of sakana. אבל בחלב לא שמענו ולא ראינו. We've never heard or seen anything regarding sakana related to fish and milk and dairy. בכל יום ויומא נהגין להכי לבשל דגים בחלב ולאכול. And it's every day we see with our own eyes that the minhag is to cook fish and dairy and eat them together. גם בדרכי משה השיג על הבית יוסף בזה. He also was...
I don't think you need to translate, just read.
אוקיי, וכן בספר באר שבע, דף קוף, ושאר האחרונים השיגו עליו בזה, וגם בש"ס פרק כל, what's כף צדיק?
פרק כיצד סולין.
כיצד סולין, משמע בהדיא, דלית בי אפילו משום סכנה, אין שם, והוא פשוט.
Right, so there's no, he says, so the Shach is saying, rejecting that Beit Yosef, and rejecting the town, and rejecting the Lavush. But it's good to know that it's mentioned, it's discussed, and only to be rejected.
It looks as if the real reason is that he sees Kol Yom V'Yom Haginan.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the class. That and if we would see people are not doing it, then maybe that is the halacha. This is an area of halacha where everybody eats at least 2-3 times a day. So there's we all are familiar with what's going on. You can't tell me that everybody's been wrong. If you can't change the minhag all of a sudden. If people have been doing something, it must be right. Whereas you might say some detail of some subtle detail in Hoshen Mishpat, or even in Taruvot, where we don't really deal with Isurim so much. Maybe we don't know what people do because it doesn't happen. But here it's happening.
The compromise situations to say that the Easter is on the chalav, but the Easter is not on butter or cheese that have shuman in it. And some quote, Yad Ephraim, for example, quotes, the good doctors say that the problem is with the milk. The problem is not, I think the Yad Ephraim says, if you look at it on the page here, yeah, it's on the page, that the good Rofim say the problem's only with the milk. That's a compromise position.
In other words, milk dafka, don't cook your fish. I mean, I never heard of really milk and fish soup. But you do put butter on fish.
Secretary Kennedy probably says it's a mitzvah d'oraisa to have raw milk with your fish.
But then you cook it.
Kill off. Don't cook it. For him, that's an Easter. He holds by the Easter. But there's a chiyuv to have raw milk with your fish and kill off some more children.
Right. Raw bear. Okay. Let's take a break now for 5 minutes and we'll come back. All right, so let me just make a little, I'm going to read a little bit in the Shulchan Aruch, because we're now in Sif Bet. Gedi lav dafka, the hu hadin shor se va'ez. We learned that Gemara doesn't matter. Gedi is lav dafka because it says Gedi izim. So when it says just Gedi, Gedi, it doesn't say Gedi izim, so it means any animal that is a domesticated animal. Veloshna b'chalav aim, veloshna b'chalav acheret. Elish diber hakatuv behove. The Torah spoke in a usual case. Now, it doesn't matter which milk it is. It doesn't have to be dafka the mother. All right, that's Sif Bet. Sif Gimel. Eino noheg ela b'basar behemet tahora b'chalav behemet tahora. It has to be both our kosher types of animals. Aval basar tahora b'chalav basar tahora b'chalav tameya. Oh, basar tameya b'chalav tahora mutarin b'bishul u'b'hana'ah. But of course, they're usher to eat because one of the two is actually a non-kosher food. But they're mutter b'hana'ah u'b'bishul, at least min Torah. Ubasar chayav va'of, afilu b'chalav tahora, mutter b'bishul b'hana'ah, just like the previous ones. V'af ba'achila eino asur min Torah, ela midrabanan. So the rabbis forbid eating, but they didn't forbid the cooking or the hana'ah. Mutar b'bishul uba hana'ah. Af ba'achila eino asur ela midrabanan. No, wait a second. Again. Basar chayav va'of, afilu b'chalav tahor, mutar b'bishul uba hana'ah. Even the Rabbanan, it's mutar b'bishul b'hana'ah. Va'af ba'achila. So the rabbis again are only osering the eating, but the bishul b'hana'ah they're leaving as mutar, like the din Torah. So they only forbid the eating. And by the behema tameya with the chalav, the rabbis didn't touch it at all, right? The rabbis didn't make any gezerah. It's already aser to eat. So they didn't forbid it, so they didn't need to forbid the eating. And that's the only thing they would have forbidden. The hana'ah and the bishul, they permit, they leave it the way the Torah says. And by oath, they just forbid the eating. And that's what we read before, aval dagim v'chagavim, ein behem isra afilu midrabanan. V'nagu, and then the Ramah says like this, v'nagu la'asot chalav mishkedim. So they would make what we have today, almond milk. Umanechim basar off, and they put in it chicken. They cook in it chicken. Hoil ve'eno rak midrabanan. What's drabanan? This is actually mutter, but it's drabanan. It looks like you're doing an issa drabanan, right? It's mutter to cook chicken. There's nothing wrong with chicken and milk and almond. It's a vegetable. But it's so when he says midirabanan, hoil ve'eno rak rabanan, he means the potential isser that it seems like you're doing is the rabbanan, which would be cooking milk and chicken. Aval bas, so they do that. So therefore they do that. Aval basar behema. But if it's actual cow or something like that, yesh la'aniach etzel hachalav shkedim. You need to put shkedim nearby, right next to it. Mishum marita'ayin. Because there it does look like you're doing this d'oraita. It looks like you're cooking meat in milk, but it's really shkedim milk, so you gotta. So that's marita'ayin. Kamoshin nitpa'er la'el siman samech vav la'inyan dam. By dam, also you have to put like fish dam, blood of fish. You have to put scales. So wait a second. So what's going on here? He's saying a very interesting rule. He's saying that there's no inyan of. Seems like he's saying there's no inyan of marit ayin when the isser that it seems like you're violating is a rabbinic isser. And the only thing I can say is that truly correct? But that's what he seems to be saying, right? He seems to be saying because chicken and shkedim looks like you're doing chicken and milk, so that is a drabanan. So therefore, there's no maritime there. We don't have a din of maritime, and we don't therefore have to put shkedim. But we do it with shkedim when it's actual beef. Since we're just talking about that, let's look at Vav. Maybe we'll get back to Dalet, but let's look at Vav right now. Maybe Max, you want to read Vav?
Sure. Okay. Klomar, velo dami ledam dagim, sof siman samach vav, shemuter legamre, va'afilu hachi im kansu bechli asor mipnei maris ayin, el im ken yesh bo kaskasim shenikar shehu dam dagim, dehasam dam gufe aser midoraisa. Good parsha bonus.
So in other words, I'll summarize. So in other words, he's saying that if you want to drink a glass of blood, a fish, but just make sure there's some scales in it. But blood looks like it is a deraita. And this is, of course, mutter, so therefore you have to have some scales. Okay.
Right. Hilkach haroeh yomar dachil dam behema she'aser midoraisa, aval b'sar of b'chalav mamish hu midrabanan, v'leiken l'mecha sh'lamaris ha'ayin, v'lechein b'sar behema b'chalav shehu aser midoraisa yesh lehaniach etzlo shkedim, kedei shelo yachshov haroeh shehu chalav mamash.
Okay, so that's basically just saying the whole explanation that I just said.
Yeah.
He's saying that by chicken, you don't have to, but by behema, you have to put the shkedim because there it's martayin, it's deraita.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
V'chein kasa b'toras chatas sham sof klal sama beis ulefizet sarich lamar demayri bebishul de'ilav hachi afilu b'sar behema leka isura deoraisa ve'in sarich laniach shkedim.
Okay, wait. So he's saying, so what's he saying? Wait.
So we just said that the only Isser Deoraisa is Bishul, and so that's what we have to be talking about here, because if there's no Bishul, even if it's Behema as opposed to Oaf, it wouldn't rise to a Deoraisa, and so you wouldn't have to use.
So when he said Lahaniach, the problem is the word Menichim. And when I translated it in the Ramah, he says menichim, and I translated it as cooking. I said placing, and then I said cooking, and that was I was informed by this shach. Now the shach is saying don't read it as menichim, placing. If you placed it, then no problem. It's obviously cooking.
Okay. Okay, the chain mochach b'toras chatas sham lahedya ian sham uv'simanei toras chatas. Okay, so that's part one. Aval maharshal perakol abasar siman nun beis lamad mehach didam dagim debepurim v'chayotzebo sheregilim le'achol tarnegoles b'chalav shkedim shasor im lo Im lo shianech shkedim etzlo besochan uvitzidan lahikera.
Oh, so here he says that he learned he said two things. What the blood on Purim? I think what he mean the blood of blood. I guess people would drink a glass of blood on Purim. I don't know. I never heard of that. And then it says the dam dagim bepurim for a joke. For a joke, they had dam dagim. I don't know what they did with it. They didn't throw it at people. They probably drank it.
The blood was for the matzah.
They baked matzahs on Purim with the blood of fish.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
is it the thing about the beef and the almond milk is you don't have to put the almonds in the milk on Purim,
No, you
right?
think
I
so?
think it says
No.
that in
Yeah,
Orachaim.
right.
No,
That's what it says.
I think it says
That's
that on
good.
Orachaim. No, on
because
Orachaim because it's Purim.
Because everyone knows.
because it's Purim and
Right, you don't
everyone
need a
knows.
hecker.
So maybe
Have
people
to.
also drank fish blood on Purim because without scales, the same idea.
I hear you. Okay. So you're saying that on the Purim itself is the Hekera.
And it's
You're
also
doing
Yeah,
weird.
the
yeah,
na'afocha.
yeah. Right. It's the joke, yeah. When you finish this part of Melacha, I want to mention a worry that I have, okay?
Okay. But anyway, he says the word asur. The Marshal says the word Shirigilim le'achol tarnagolet b'chalav shkedim sha'asur im lo shianiach shkedim. That's the real part that we're interested in. He says that it's asur with chicken if you don't put shkedim etzlo b'tochan ubetzidan in it and around it, the hekera. So he seems to be saying, even though it's the Rabbanan, you do need a heker. So I said that it's not necessarily the Marshal. A lot of times we've seen is stricter than the Ramah, and here seems to be another example. Ubefrat, go on.
Okay, ubefrat gabe besar of deikal mechash tafe shelo yidmu lomar basar of bechalav shari afil midrabanan kirbiosi aglili. So there actually might be a bigger problem with chicken than with beef because people might come to say that that basar of bechalav is mutter legamre.
In other words, if they see you eating like beef with milk, they say, "Oh, for sure it's almond milk." But if they see you eating chicken with milk, they say, "Oh, maybe it's not. Maybe it's really milk." Because maybe the halacha is like, or maybe you hold like Rabbi Yosef Lili. So since there's an opinion like that, we have to even actually be more worried. But wait a second, that wouldn't mean by all the Rabbanans. That would be specifically by chicken. That would be, in other words, I thought he was trying to say that all the Rabbanans maybe we have to be worried about that. Now he seems to be saying maybe chicken is particularly problematic. Okay.
Yeah.
Ad kan l'shana.
Right. The Marshal, right. V'chein iskimu acharonim, v'chein nireh lefi anu. Right, so everyone agrees, and so do I, that I guess against the Ramah.
That what? That you have to have
You need to
shkedim
place
with chicken.
Yeah.
Right.
Shuv
ba'lidei. No,
right. Shuv ba'lidei sefer Beersheva. Umatzati shepasak nami hachi.
No, so the Beersheva also says you need shkedim by chicken.
Right.
Okay.
Deha afilu b'midi derabanan chayshin el marasayin, because
so now he generalizes it.
Right. It is possible to have a Marizayin concern even for a derabanan.
Or we always do. I don't know, maybe possible or always. I'm not sure. V'hayen bekama duchte. In other words, there's various places that you'll find that is Marizayin and derabanan.
Right.
So this rule of the Ramah maybe is not like solid, or however you say that. Yeah.
He doesn't say the rule though. Like it's implied, but he doesn't say that. The Ramah himself doesn't say that as a rule, or maybe it's implied.
Oh, he does say hoil ve'eno rak midrabanan,
but he doesn't say I don't
know. That's why you don't have to be worried of Maradain.
But he's not saying that. I don't know if he's saying that as a general rule about a derabanan and Marasayin.
Well, then why? Then it wouldn't be a rule. Then it wouldn't be a proof. Then it wouldn't be a proof. If that's the reason, then that reason should apply across the board. I'm just saying logically, unless you could try to say no, that's the reason here, and in other places different.
Yeah.
But I think that the point of the Shach is to push back against the Ramah and to say, no, there is Maradayim B'Drabanan.
Yeah.
Okay. Umehem, and I was going to, this we don't really need to understand, but you can just read it quickly.
Okay. Umihem b'shas. So there's times in the Gemara when we see that we are choshesh for a Drabanan. Perik bama behema velo bezug afal pishu pakuk mishum demechse kamanda azil lechinga piresh Rashi leshuk limkor v'hainu mari sayin.
In other words, you can't take your animal out with the pakak because people will think you're going to sell it in the shuk. Read on.
Muskam mikol poskim ukamosh nisbaer ba'orachaim siman shinhei afa pish isr mekach umemkar b'shabbos eno elam midrabanan.
Right. So what do you care if people think you're going to go sell it on the shuk? It's only Drabanan.
Right.
You see, we are choshesh for Drabanan, married ayin.
Right. K'moshe kasav be'orachaim u'v'choshen mishpat sof siman reish lamed hey v'chein mochach lahedya b'tosfos b'ksubos perak afal pi dibur amatchiel mima'achan v'chulei da'afil b'midi d'rabanan chayshina l'maris ha'ayin v'hachi mashma b'duchte tuve. So this is just one example, but it's all over the place.
Yeah. So you're basically saying, I don't understand the Ramah. Why is he saying why is he being lenient here by chicken? First of all, we have reasons to say by chicken we should be more worried about Maritayin because people think you're paskening like Yosef Lili. And so if you're going to take the specific case, we should be more worried. And if you're going to take the general rule, well, there is no general rule of the Rabbanans. Questions, reactions? Here, Rabbi Lannis was first.
I have my worry. Wait, am I muted? No. I worry about, look, you have a whole system here which makes sure that meat and milk are separated. And we have one exception, and that exception they argue out the hecker, and it has all different ramifications, but it's an exception. But now you have this not real milk, etc. It's not like the old half and half or whatever it was that they had for coffees, and they would have with the almonds, they would have the the par of containers. But now you have this no real milk that's supposed to really work well, and if it doesn't work 100% right now in terms of taste, etc., or cooking, people say it does, then for sure in a couple of years it will. And many poskim with the OU for sure saying it's mutter, they're giving the hashgacha on that. I don't get it. I mean, really, seriously, I don't get it. I don't see how there's a breakdown of this whole direction. And to make the shkedim to be a paradigm as opposed to an exception. I am just telling you my word.
I don't understand what you're saying. You're saying you think that they should be more strict with the artificial meat or more lenient?
Yeah, they should be very strict.
They should be very strict.
Very strict. Well, once you all know what meat is meat, you all know which milk is milk. I mean,
right. I mean, there's a restaurant one of my favorite restaurants in Jerusalem. You can sit out on the street corner and have a bacon cheeseburger. in Jerusalem, and it's kosher because it's bacon from lamb and cheese from cashews, and it looks like
But I wouldn't know, but I would imagine it still tastes differently.
it probably does. It probably does taste
Part
different.
of
But
it is this, that there's a fun element to that.
you're saying, but by laboratory meat, it's
But
exactly
yeah,
the
that's
same.
going to be.
No, but the point is the
I don't see how the
onlooker.
system is. I don't see how the system is going to remain.
But remember, the point of the almonds is for the average onlooker, right? That it shouldn't look like I'm doing something else. It should be clear that it's mutter. Well, maybe the fact that the sign on this restaurant says kosher is good enough.
Well,
But
Max
maybe,
says I should have it on. I should have it on Purim. But
or yeah, have it on
yeah,
Purim.
you know.
What if
Okay.
you take, here is it Maritime to go into a McDonald's and order a Coke and drink a Coke in the McDonald's? I would say it's
No
mutter.
Jew that I know can order a drink and not have something to nash it to say. So it's total marasite.
I thought there was a Rav
Totally
Moshe
I
tshuva
think
where
it's
he allows it.
not real milk is totally usher.
If you
I
go in and
found
order a Coke and you sit down at a table with all kinds of wrappers of hamburgers and you drink it, then then it might be a problem.
I thought there was a
Um,
Rav Moshe
listen,
tshuva where he allowed it.
marascion. What marascion is about is you feel negative about the other person because you shouldn't put a Jew in a position that they'll say something bad, and even worse, you may want to make sure that the person doesn't misinterpret you and therefore themselves do a real Easter. So I would
in
say
other
the
words,
whole theory of Maris Ayin means that no real milk is a good thing. I mean, no real milk is good to be assert because you'll be teaching people the wrong derech. Well, you heard
until
it
such a
today.
point as it becomes
It's my
known
new career.
until such a point that it's known that people drink parv milk.
I think this is a good
Now
enough
it's
Torah.
also like there's enough.
Oh, thank you very much.
When he
Soy milk. What is that there?
this is almond milk, right? So even the Rama would say you don't actually, I think, not to have the shkedim themselves, but when the carton itself screams almonds, right? Isn't that a hekera good enough?
I mean, a lot of people do that with margarine. A lot of people, if they like used margarine for like
Yeah.
a meal, will like plop the margarine container on the table so people know. But like this obviously is also a conversation around like impossible burgers and stuff like that, where sure, if you like look at it just like for a moment, it like if you have that with cheese, it looks like a cheeseburger. But if you're eating like an impossible burger in a vegan restaurant, like all signs would indicate that neither the burger nor the cheese you're eating are meat or dairy, right?
Right.
Like it would take somebody really radically ignoring most indicators to look
Okay.
at and assume that like meat and dairy is
Oh, I
permitted.
think that's exactly the point for me. I mean, we're at a certain point in which indicators work because it's because a kosher restaurant. Indicators work because many poskim say should put out, as Shammai said, should put out the container of, they say Dafke should put out the container of the almond milk. But when does I think we're close to a tipping point in which there's no such thing as indicators.
I want to say that from the opposite perspective, or maybe it's the same perspective, that because it's so prevalent, you just don't have the married ayin in the first place. Because everyone is going to dafka assume, like if I'm seeing as much parv cheese as I'm seeing real cheese in my daily life, then I would never assume in the first place that you're doing a cheeseburger with real cheese, because I'm in a world full of it. Meaning in this Ramah, it's like, well, there's this rare thing of almond milk, but today it's like most people don't even have their coffee with real milk anymore. Oat
Well,
milk is so
what is?
prevalent.
I think
Maybe I
actually
have
there's.
one convert.
Let me make a comment here. I think that there's
Thank
a
you.
lesson that we can learn here, which is from the what the Shach said about Yossi Galili. I think we can learn an important lesson, which is that we don't. What's the point of Maradai? That people shouldn't come to learn from our behavior a false halacha. As they shouldn't learn that we paskin like Rabbi Yossi Galili, or they shouldn't learn like that it's mutter to eat at McDonald's. But if their action is not going to be misinterpreted, then it's okay. Now, I think what Landis is saying is that nowadays we have no way of interpreting actions at all because it's hard to know what a person's eating. You look at it, what you see in front of you is meaningless because it could be any kind of meat and it could be any kind. So you could take that in two directions. You could take it in one direction where you say, therefore, everything is forbidden because people might learn the wrong thing. Or you could take the other direction and say, well, since what I'm doing doesn't necessarily look wrong because everybody knows that there's parv meats and there's things, so then nobody's going to learn anything wrong from what I'm doing because they're going to dan l'chav zchut. They're not going to think that all of a sudden that it's mutter to have a cheeseburger because they know that this is he's probably having a parv cheeseburger. I mean, those are the two ways.
Especially kashrut agencies is a thing that they're not taking into account here. Like we have these massive kashrut agencies where it's easier to keep kosher, harder to break kosher. It all must affect Marit Ayin on some level.
Listen, you will all have to paskin in many cases of people doing things that you would not want them to do, and try to figure out the way that it's the least wrong or harm is done in going into the McDonald's.
Right.
I knew a colleague of mine, young colleague of mine, used to say, well, you have to sit next to the washroom so people think that you went there to, go to the washroom. But
what you can't do is go into McDonald's.
All these ways in order to do it. But you see my problems, and I'll rest it right here.
Yeah. What you can't do is go into a McDonald's with a hamburger that you brought from a kosher restaurant and sit down and eat it in the McDonald's.
Isn't it? That's a Kiddush Hashem. Somebody will tell you. We're being Makare.
Because then it looks like you're eating a hamburger that's from McDonald's. You're eating a hamburger and you're in McDonald's.
That's for sure. You're right.
Yeah. But if you're eating a Coke, if you're drinking a Coke in a McDonald's, then people see what you're doing. What are you doing? Drinking a Coke. If they learn from that you can drink Coke, then it's fine. Okay, let's go on we're going sort of backwards. We went backwards because the last thing was sort of interesting, but we'll go a little bit backwards now. Let's look at Dalet in the Shach now. What was Dalet? Let's remind ourselves. That was where it says, "Ubasar chayav ha'of afilu b'chalav tahor mutter b'bishul u'b'hana'ah." You could cook your chicken in milk, and you could have hana'ah from it, but you just can't eat it. Man, that's only Rabbanan. So look, the Shach I don't think likes that very much. The Shach is pushing back against a lot of these things here. And I think we basically paskin like the Shach on all these things. So it's important to see them. So Noam, did you read? Or Eitan you didn't read. Eitan you didn't read. So maybe Eitan you want to read? Dalet?
Sure. Basar chayav v'of v'chulei v'af b'achila v'chulei dat mechaber de basar chayav v'of eno asur ba'achila afilu derech bishul ela midirabanan umutar b'hana'ah u'va'bishul legamre. Right, so that's basically the position of the mechaber is that meat of a chaya and of oaf is not prohibited for eating. Even is only permitted derabanan from eating derech bishul, but it's permitted b'hana'ah and to cook. V'maharshal v'habach talu atzman b'divrei mahari b'haga'at sharei dora siman ayin vav b'masha katav kasher lahakel neged hatosafot lakach pasku de basar chayav ve'of b'chalav deoraita.
So the Bach and the Marshal, again, our Marshal, very important posek, are saying, they said that it's kasher. It's an interesting lashon. Kasher lahakel neged atosos. We can't be lenient when, point of fact, Tosfos was machmir. We didn't learn this Tosfos, but there's a Tosfos like this. It's not 100% clear what the Tosfos is really saying this, but he might be saying, at least he's choshesh, that basar chayev va'of b'chalav is actually asur d'oraita. This is an eye-popping opinion. Whoever thought that basar chayev va'of is asur d'oraita? Well, Tosfos seems to mention it, and enough so that the Marshal and the Bach say we can't be lenient. What does he mean? He can't be lenient. He means lenient means we're gonna the Mechaber seems to be allowing you to cook it and to have hana from it. He's certainly forbidding you to eat it, but maybe we shouldn't really be allowed to have a hana or to cook it because the Tosfos thinks it's deraita. So let's forbid everything. Let's forbid all three things. Okay, go on.
ובספרי החזקתי דברי האומרים שהוא מדרבנן מן הש"ס, והבאתי שם שכן דעת הרבה מאוד פוסקים. ואף מהרי לא כאמר אלא שקשה להקל נגד התוספות, שלא לאכול גבינה אחר בשר עוף מיד, אבל מודה לדינא דבשר עוף בחלב דרבנן. שהרי כתב בהגרת שערי דורה, סימן ס"ט, דביצים גמורים, מותר לאכלן בחלב, משום דבשר עוף בחלב דרבנן. Hikelu.
All right, so go back.
Where did I start there? In
my book.
In my book, I guess I presumed that
I supported
the words of those who say that it's Darabanan from the Shas that he brought, that was brought there, that because this is the opinion of many of the poskim.
I supported the opinion from the Shas, and I brought many opinions, or I brought that this is the opinion of many poskim.
All right.
In other words, everybody says it's Darabanan. Even though the Marshal and the Bach seem to be worried that the Tosfos says that it's Deraita.
Right. Because even the Mahari only says that it's kashed to be mekil neged Tosfot.
And in what aspect? That's the next word.
When it comes to eating cheese after oath, immediately after.
In other words, he's saying you might say that chicken. If anyone ever asks you, why do we have to wait 6 hours after chicken? Chicken, anyways, the Rabbanan. Say, we have to wait 6 hours because there are some opinions that chicken is the right thing. So we're not going to be lenient as far as chicken in that way. We're going to say, after eating chicken, you should wait 6 hours. That's all he was saying. He's not saying we're actually posketing that it's also deraita. We're going to be machmir. We're going to treat it like meat, even though we're not going to say, even though it's the Rabbanan. And this is actually a big light to a lot of cloudy topics that we had in general, which is how do we treat meat? How do we treat chicken and milk? In other words, we seem to treat it a little bit more strictly than we treat other derabanans. And the answer might be this, because really there's sort of an inkling, or the Tosfos seems to try to think that there is some kind of deraita here going on. So chicken and milk is, we're going to treat it 100% like meat, and you're going to wait 6 hours after, or whatever hours you wait, after chicken, just like meat.
I mean, that is...
And that's all the Mahari was saying.
That is like seemingly the rabbinic position on the chicken. Like the Tosfot Paskin, like the Rabbanan, part of the Gemara. It's just that most other people are going by Rabbi Akiva. But like, it makes sense to treat chicken differently because the Gemara treats chicken differently than the other things.
Mm-hmm. You're saying that your reading of the Gemara is that the Gemara is not even pasking like Rabbi Akiva.
No, I think it's like I think the Gemara is not totally clear, which is how you end up with the Tosfot in part being able to paskin chicken is doraita. But what I'm saying is, by contrast, for none of these other things do we even have an indication. Like there isn't really a hava, that these other things would be doraisa, right? Chicken is the only one where that's like a substantive opinion that's floated. So it makes sense that that would, at least emerge in a way that doesn't with the others.
I agree. But here we're seeing it, and I think it's a nice piece here. We're seeing that all played out. So, yeah, I think that's a good answer. We keep 6 hours for chicken because it's Tosfos. Okay, so that's what that's all the Mahari meant. Okay, go on. I'm translating.
Right, but he agrees with the rule that basar in the basar of that chicken in dairy is derabanan, because he wrote in Hagahot Share Dora that when you have sort of completed eggs, it's permitted to eat them with dairy because the meat of chicken in dairy is derabanan, and so
Right.
he's
I mean,
making.
if they're completed, they should be parved, but whatever. Maybe semi-completed. I'm not sure what he means by completed. Obviously, you can eat a chicken egg with milk. But he's saying maybe even if
You wait till it's ready to be hatched.
yeah.
That's the deal. That's the deal.
Okay, thank you. All right, go on.
וכך כתב רב נתן שפירא במבוא שערים סימן עין שמהרי תופס עיקר כבהגבנה עיין שם.
Go on.
ואף שהתוספות תלו דין אכילת גבינה אחר בשר עוף בזה, דבשר עוף בחלב דאורייתא או דרבנן, מכל מקום אין זה מוכרח כמו שכתב שם, וגם מדברי התוספות עצמן שם משמע שאין מוכרח לומר כן, אלא שבא ליישב מנהג העולם עיין שם. But
Basically, he's saying the whole thing is not mukhrach at all, that you should wait 6 hours after chicken. But Tosfos sort of was going in that direction just to explain the minhag olam. What's the minhag olam? To wait 6 hours after chicken.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying, that in the beginning of the class, that a lot of that we have to relate to what people are doing. We can't create halacha here that contradicts behavior when it's a matter that is constantly being behaved. There are people constantly eating chicken and constantly eating cheese. So we know what people do. So why are they waiting 6 hours after chicken? Because maybe it's the right thing. Ube'emet.
ובאמת יש לומר דרך אחרת, דאף למאי דקיימלן בשר עוף בחלב דרבנן אסור לאכול גבינה מיד אחריו, כדלקמן ריש סימן פט, והדתני איגרא עוף וגבינה נאכלים.
Igra is his name. This is the name of this guy. Hadetani Igra. Igra's taught.
I see. עוף וגבינה נאכלים באפי קורן.
So that's a famous expression that you should all memorize. Of v'gvina ne'echalin b'apikarin. They're eaten. Apikarin is sort of. Oh, Joe wants to say something. Joe.
Oh, no, I was just showing the hands. It seems to really be about you don't have to check your hands for shuman there, I think, right, is what it means in that case.
Yeah, I think the word apikarin, I was about to say that. I think the word apikarin comes from the word hefker.
Yeah.
Maybe then it's eaten in a nonchalant way, in a hefker way. No?
Yeah. I know that the hands is the only thing implied by his statement, but it's certainly how the Gemara seems to read it, right? Like the Gemara following seems to read it as like specifically, and they limit it to from cheese to oaf ultimately, that like you just don't need to check your hands in between them.
Right. No, that's why the Gemara. The way I understand it is like this. It means it's eaten in hefkerut. It's eaten in, and then the Gemara dons, what kind of hefkerut is that? What kind of nonchalantness do we permit? And it comes eventually to the point of the hands being clean. And that's exactly what the Shach is about to say. And he says like this, he says, let's start again. I lost the flow of it. So can you go back again to Be'emet, where he says Be'emet?
ובאמת יש לומר דרך אחרת, דאף למאי דקיימלן בשר עוף בחלב דרבנן אסור לאכול גבינה מיד אחריו, וכדלקמן ריש סימן פט, ותתנא איגרא, עוף וגבינה נאכלין באפיקורן, מפרשינן כמו שמפרש הרמב"ם וסייעתו, ומביאו בית יוסף סימן פט, דהיינו באוכל גבינה ואחר כך עוף.
It means that when you're eating the epikarin, the hefkerut is when you're eating the gvina and then chicken, not chicken and then gvina. Chicken and then gvina for sure you have to wait, but epikarin means the other way. If you're eating cheese, ba'ochel gvina, and then you want to eat chicken, which actually you could eat meat right after cheese, really. So chicken, though, you could be a little bit, if you eat meat after, well, he's about to say, if you eat meat after cheese, you should make sure there's no cheese on your hands. But by chicken, you don't have to. So how does that help us?
ועוד יש לחלק בכמה גוני. והרי כתב הרמב"ם סוף פרק ב' מהלכות מומרים, שאומר
ממרים.
שאומר בשר עוף בחלב אסור מן התורה, עובר בבל תוסיף.
Oh, so the Rambam says you're an epikuros if you say that that milk in meat is asur midoraita. Don't let the Tosfos hear that. But so therefore, it's clear that the Rambam is saying it's for sure the Rabbanan. I mean, what was this whole idea of this epikar, and why did he bring that up? Why did the Shach bring that up? Because what would you might have said? What would you might you have said? You might have said that why is chicken different from meat? There's chicken is different from meat, so it's obviously the Rabbanan. Because you can eat it. You can eat chicken like with milk. So it's eaten with epikara. You don't have to check your hands. You can eat. So you see, it's Rabbanan. He says, no, it's something that's only after the meat. So as if you would eat chicken, you still have to wait 6 hours. The Gemara never meant to say that you don't have to wait 6 hours. Comments? Joel, you have something? You have a comment?
Well, I think also, right, the lichor reading of Agra's statement is that you can eat cheese right after chicken, and that's why he's like, don't read it that way. That's not the way we read it. We understand it as it means it's dafka chicken after cheese, or I don't know, chicken oaf after cheese, right? And
Right.
dafka, to not check your hands, but it doesn't mean you can eat them together. It doesn't mean you can the other way. You don't have to wait. Of course, you have to wait.
So wait. So how does that affect our discussion, our diyun about whether it's D'oraita or D'Rabbanan?
I mean, it can still be D'Rabbanan, but you still have to wait for whatever. He doesn't give the reason then in that case as to why you have to wait.
Right.
He thinks the Gemara.
So then it doesn't affect our discussion. Okay. Now in our continuing time warp, let's go back again because we didn't see Gimel in the Shach, as if I'm correct. We didn't see Gimel. Gimel was going on Sif Gimel. We're still in Sif Gimel. We're just going backwards in Sif Gimel. Sif Gimel it starts like this: Eino nohege ela b'basar behemet tahora b'chalav behemet tahora aval basar tahora b'chalav tameya. Oh, the opposite: basar tameya b'chalav tahora mutarin b'bishul b'hana. And that's it. Because the rabbis did not know Geya. The rabbis did not touch this matter. They left it on the standing of the Torah's level, or the way the Torah treats it. The Torah says you can't eat it because it's one of them is tameh. But as far as cooking and hana, the Torah says fine, and the rabbis did not intervene. So let's see what the Shach says about that. Somebody want to read? All right, Joel, go for it.
I like this one. So, all right. Aval basar Torah bechalav tmeya v'chulei. Lashon haTur. So here's Lashon haTur. Aval basar.
He's quoting the Tur now.
Aval basar Torah bechalav behema tmeya, o basar tmeya bechalav Torah, uvasar chayav ha'of, afilu bechalav Torah, eino elami derabanan. Umutar b'bishul v'hana'a ad kan lashon. So that's the Tur's language, which is a little bit different than the Chaver, right? Because he says it is but derabanan, right? He doesn't say.
Well, no. What's the real problem? The Beit he's about to bring. The Beit Yosef says he doesn't like this lashon.
It's because
what's the problem with it?
It sounds like basar, let's say I'll take a case, basar Torah and halav tmeah is only an isur derabanan, and it's not an isur derabanan; it's an isur deraita to eat those two together.
Right.
It's isur deraita not to basar b'chalav, but it's because the milk is tmeah, right?
Right.
Okay.
In other words, it sounds like the derabanan when he says "Eino elam derabanan." What is Eino elam derabanan? It says umutter b'bishul b'hana'ah. So it's there's no derabanan on bishul b'hana'ah. So what's asur derabanan? The eating. But the eating, it's not asur derabanan by behemoth tameya. It's a behemoth tameya. It's asur deraita.
Yeah. So if I took camel milk, I ate it with cow, that would be asur deraita.
Asur deraita. So it can't be the derabanan only goes on the chicken really. But obviously it's a kind of nitpicky point because obviously the Torah is not implying that you can eat, that it's only asur derabanan to eat. Obviously the Torah knew that. Maybe his language was not the best, but obviously, and no reader should make a mistake there. But anyway, V'katav Beit Yosef, go on.
V'katav Beit Yosef, Shlashon she'eno mekuvan hu, dema shekatav eino ela midirabanan, lo matzei kai ela lechaya ve'of bechalav Torah. Right? He says it's not quite correct language, right? Because when he said it's only the Rabbanan, what he's really referring to is the.
Go on.
Okay, etc. De'ilu basar Torah b'chalav tmeah o ibcha lo ashkachan shatzru hachachamim ba'achila mishum basar b'chalav, because we don't find that actually the basar Torah and chalav tmeah or vice versa has any basar b'chalav isur derabanan. V'gam lo haya inyan le'osro midivrehem. In other
words, not only is it asur deraita, but you might say, when he said it's asur midrabanan, he meant to say not only is it asur deraita because of basar, because of tamei, because it's a behemoth tameya. Maybe he meant to say, maybe the Torah meant to say, it's asur derabanan also. What asur derabanan? Basar b'chalav derabanan. In other words, maybe behemoth tameya in chalav is asur derabanan.
Yeah. So,
in what sense? In basar b'chalav.
Yeah,
you can say, well, what do I care? Why would the rabbis add an extra isser derabanan when it's already asur deraita? So he's going to explain what the thinking is.
Yeah, that's when we get to that.
That's the interesting question.
Yes.
What would the ramifications be if behemoth tameya with kosher milk would be asur derabanan? Because of basar b'chalav.
That's the all right.
V'kam lo haya inyan. Go ahead.
No.
V'gam lo haya inyan le'esor lo sro.
I read that. Did I not read that?
You read that?
I thought I did, but I got to find it again.
Oh, you read it. You're right. Ad kan l'shon. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong place. So that's ad kan l'shono of who?
Of the Beit Yosef.
Right. The Beit Yosef basically says, what would the reason possibly be for the rabbis to forbid something that's already asur deraita?
So, all right, l'chach tiken kan alashon ve'afek even ela she'abach hisig alav upiresh te'atur ate lashmu'inan demikol makom midrabanan asurin mishum basar b'chalav. All right, so he says the Bach says no. I actually think the Torah. He's not that he wrote it badly. He meant to say that midrabanan there's an isur basar b'chalav on, let's say, basar tmeah and chalav Torah.
Right. So go on.
And here's the nafkamina. V'nafkamina lian chanan. Right. The sphira the eno ela b'basar v'chalav. Right. Because the Torah, we know he holds that chanan only applies in basar v'chalav. V'chein le'inyan chaticha riyah litkabed. Ayin sham. Right.
All right. So give me the case. What's the case of the nafkamina?
So the case of the nafkamina is if I have, let's take basar tmeah. I have a pig.
No, take it the other way around.
I'll do the other way. It's probably easier. Okay, I have cow and I have camel milk, and the two of them.
Cow and a drop of camel milk falls on it. So now the cow is usur because it has isser in it.
Yeah.
But if it's also usur because of
if it's also usur because of basar b'chalav, now I've got to have 60 against the entire piece of meat.
And right. Well, maybe that's a bad example for that. But for the other case, for haticha ruya litkabed, think about that one. For haticha, what's the din of? All right, this is a review. Review of what we learned before. What is the din of haticha ruya litkabed?
It has to be Isur Mechmat.
It has to be Isser Machmat Atzmo. In other words, if I have, for example, a piece of kosher meat and falls on it treifa meat flavor, let's say blood of a treifa animal or any kind of blood, falls on it, and it forbids it now. But do I say it's batel echad betrei? Is it batel barov? Yes, because the meat is essentially mutter meat, and it's only the absorption in it, which is not the iser atzmo. It's an absorbed thing, and that absorbed thing is not rui litchabed. It's not an honorable piece. The piece itself is kosher, so therefore we would allow you bittul barov. So what about the din of camel milk? If camel milk fell on it,
if it's chanan,
and if we treat it as just an isser, then it would be batal barov. But if we treat it as basar b'chalav, then we have a din by basar b'chalav that it becomes it turns into an isser atzmo. The whole thing becomes usser, and then we would say that the whole piece is usser, and it wouldn't be batal barov. That's the explanation for atichai rui litchabet. What about the case for the Hanan? That's more a better case the other way, where you have.
No, I think it works right. If I drop some camel milk on a piece of kosher meat, right? If I say that it's not Hanan, right? If there's no basar b'chalav, then I just have to be.
You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. Then you just have to mevatel. If there's no Hanan, you just mevatel the camel milk. But if it's basar b'chalav, you have to mevatel the whole piece. Good. So those are the two nafkaminas. Ayin sham.
וכן פירש הפרישה, ולפי זה אפילו לדידן דקיימה לן חנן בכל איסורים, היה נפקותא בדבר לעניין מה שכתב הרב בהגה, סימן צדי ב', סעיף ד' עיין שם, which mainly is lach belach is one case that we only hold that.
Let's go there. Let's look there.
Let's see. This
Siman Sadi Bet is a very important siman, so it's anyway good to look at it again. We haven't looked at it yet, but to look at it to pre-look.
Sif Daled, right?
Sif Sadi Bet Sif Daled. So yeah, we got to go quick.
I can.
Sadi Bet Sif Daled.
I'll start reading
here. I'll read. You want to read? No, I'm going to skip here. Aval I miktzat. You see where it says aval I miktzat? Skip a few lines.
אבל אם מקצת, אבל מקצת החתיכה תוך הרוטב, ואין האיסור דבוק בו, לא אמרינן חתיכה נעשה נבילה, ומצטרף כל הקדרה לבטל האיסור. ומכל מקום, יש להחמיר לאסור אותה חתיכה. אוקיי. וכל זה בשאר איסורים. אבל בבשר בחלב, אף על פי שאין האיסור דבוק, ומקצת החתיכה תוך הרוטב, אמרינן חתיכה נעשה נבילה. Right, so this is...
So this is the famous case in the Gemara, the Machlokas, Rashi, and Tosfot. I think we saw. Did everybody see? We saw Tipat Chalav at the beginning of the year. The case is that a piece of meat is in the rotev and a piece of milk falls on it, and now Rashi says that the piece, if it's in the rotev, the piece becomes usher. Even it's in the rotev, but part of it is sticking out. So when it hits the drop on it, that piece becomes Hanan. And now you need to mevatel against that whole piece. Tosfos says, no. If that's what happened, then we treat the drop as if it fell into the whole pot. We don't have chanan in such a case. So how does the Ramah paskin? He paskins that if it's shar surim, we'll be mekel. What does it mean mekel? We'll do like Tosfot, and we'll say that the drop hit it, and it's as though it fell into the whole pot and was batal and shishi. But if it's milk and meat, we'll be machmir like Rashi and say, no, it hit the piece that's above the water, the part of it that's above the water, the piece became aser and chanan. But it only says chanan by Basar B'chalav. So here's a nafkamina, another nafkamina. If we say that it's Basar B'chalav, then we're gonna have to be machmir like Rashi in those cases. All right.
And
I said that pretty quickly, but
he's got a second one too. Yes, Shorim Delo Amrinan Chaticha Nase Nevila. Im Yitarev Isur Lach Beheter Lach. Ve'achar Kach Nitarev Akol Beheter Acher.
Okay, keep going.
Keep going in where? In the Ramah or in the?
No. Go back to the Shach.
Oh, I gotta find it again. Here we go. It was Vaduk.
It says Vaduk.
Yeah, hold on, I got a posky the right line. B'kol makom harav be'agasi manti v'duk. Okay. ולפי ענייתתי, זה אומר דוודאי לא השגחן בשום...
Ze'eno.
No, Zeno, you're right. So, okay. This is דוודאי לא השגחן בשום דוכתא, וגם לא השתמית אחד מהפוסקים לכתוב כן. Right? Says it doesn't
In
seem
other words, he's saying like this, but really, there is no such thing as the rabbis forbidding this because of milk and meat. Don't get too crazy. Don't go off on this wild goose chase.
Yeah, nobody wrote it. Nobody
said that there's an Issur Derabanan of Basar B'chalav by Behemoth Tamei. Okay.
וגם מפירוש רש"י והר"ן, משמע להג'ה דלית בהו איסור משום בשר בחלב כלל, אפילו מדרבנן. Right? So we've got
go on.
וגם אין טעם כלל שחכמים יאסרו משום בשר בחלב. Right? There's no reason to even make this גזירה. דבשלמה בבשר עוף שייך שפיר גזירה, שאם היו אוכלים בשר עוף בחלב, היו אוכלים גם כן בשר בהמה בחלב. Right?
They might come, we can make the gezerah, because if they ate chicken and milk, they might come to eat meat. So we can make the gezerah, but nobody's going to eat. In other words, they don't need to make a gezerah by basar behemoth tameya because they're not going to eat it anyway. It's usher.
Eat the chazir anyway, so why are we going to? Yeah.
Right. K'dekatav Rambam sham.
אבל מה העניין לגזור שבשר בהמה טהורה בחלב טמאה, או איפכא יאסור משום בשר בחלב, דהא בלאו הכי לקה למיכה שלמידי, כיוון דבלאו הכי אסור משום בשר או חלב טמאה. That's exactly what I just said.
Right. In other words, the rabbis are not going to just make an issur to make our lives more machmi, to make our lives problems. If anyway the thing is usher, people will bedili inish minei, people will hold back from touching it, and we don't need to make a gezerah. Just let's finish this up.
So that's why he fixes the language. He says, right, there's no reason to make it forbidden. Right?
In other words, that's exactly what he's putting all this into the Beis Yosef. He's saying the Beis Yosef said there was, when it said there's no derabanan issur, he meant to say that there's no reason why the rabbis would have forbidden this derabanan.
והבין שבית יוסף בא לומר, דאין נפקא מינה בדבר, אם הוא אסור משום בשר בחלב, או לאו.
And the Beis Yosef never meant to say there's no nafka mina. Of course there's a nafka mina. Go on.
But, או לאו, כיוון שכבר אסור מן התורה, ולכך השיב דנפקא מינה וכולי.
All that is a misunderstanding of the Beis Yosef. That he had to prove to him that there's a nafka mina. Of course there's nafka minas, but the Beis Yosef is just saying the rabbis never goes there in such a case. Ela kavanat Beit Yosef.
פירשתי, וכן עיקר לדינה, ושגם שחתיכה ראויה להתכבד גופי, הווה מדרבנן, וכדלקמן סימן ק"י, גם הדרישה כתב בסוף דבריו, אלא שעדיין קשה שלא מצינו זה בשום מקום שבשר תורה בחלב טמאה או איפכא יש בו איסור דרבנן, ושנעשית נבלה מדרבנן עד כאן. So, it says we've never seen such a thing. So.
There's no Hanan by Isurim, right? If it's already Usser, it's Usser. Okay, it has to. We'll stop here. Next week, Lexi, feel free to start at Vav. I don't think it's that important, Dalet and Hey, but you might want to do them.
Yeah, I think we might glance at them, but we're not going to spend a ton of time with the eggs inside of the animal body because I think it's not the most Lamaisa of our Seifim. So we'll send out materials in the next day or so.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Laila Tov.
Thank you very much. I'm very fine.